Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky's top aide is denying that a rift in government led to an attempt on his life today, describing the idea as idiotic. Serhiy Shefir escaped unharmed when a gunman fired on his car just outside the capital, Kiev. Ukrainian authorities say they are investigating the possible involvement of foreign special services. Russia has already denied any involvement. President Zelensky has promised a strong response to the attack.
The car was hit with a hail of bullets, over a dozen shots from an automatic weapon, say Ukrainian investigators. But the bullets missed their apparent target, Serhiy Shefir, chief aide and long-term friend of the Ukrainian president. I remember that we were driving. Suddenly, shots rang out, wounding the driver. The driver was great. He continued to drive. We had to speed up a little. It was scary. I immediately called the police.
Who will represent Afghanistan at the United Nations? That's the question UN officials are now facing since the Taliban took over the country last month. The international body has confirmed that it has received 2 letters, one from the currently accredited Afghan ambassador Ghulam Isaaqzai with a list of his delegation, and another from the Taliban's Minister of Foreign Affairs, proposing a new representative and requesting to address world leaders at the 76th General Assembly.
The United Nations is a credible institution in the world, and it is their duty to recognize our government. We also expect other countries in Europe, in the region, near and far, as well as Islamic countries, to strengthen their diplomatic relations with us and recognize our government.
As President of the United States, my first responsibility is to protect the American people. And I'm proud that we've gone from 2 million Americans being fully vaccinated when I took office in January 20th to 182 million and counting today in America. But we also know that to beat the pandemic here, we need to beat it everywhere. And I made and I'm keeping the promise that America will become the arsenal of vaccines, as we were the arsenal for democracy during World War II. We've already shipped nearly 160 million doses to 100 countries, more than every other country has donated combined. America's donations of 500 million Pfizer vaccines through COVAX that I've announced before the G7 summit in June have already begun to ship. Today, I'm announcing another historic commitment. The United States is buying another 500 million doses of Pfizer to donate to low and middle-income countries around the world.
Rwandan troops have made progress pushing back armed groups in northern Mozambique since being deployed there 2 months ago. Their rapid success has raised concerns about the effectiveness of Mozambique's own security forces. Rwanda sent about 1,000 soldiers into the resource-rich Cabo del Gado province back in July. And alongside local forces, they're helping people travel safely to and from the town of Palma that's suffered some of the worst violence. Conflict there has escalated in northern Mozambique since an insurgency back in 2017. The government says ISIL-linked fighters are operating in parts of Cabo del Gado province, destroying villages and kidnapping people. An armed group known locally as Al-Shabab in Mozambique is behind much of the conflict.
Italy could hold a referendum as soon as next year on whether or not to legalise the growing of marijuana for personal use. Activists in favour of the move say they've gathered the 500,000 signatures needed by law to initiate a nationwide vote on the issue. Observers say if it succeeds in Italy, it's likely to set off a domino effect across Europe.
Campaign groups and promoters of the referendum have managed to gather 500,000 signatures in just a week. That's an extraordinary result, and that is what is needed to call a popular referendum here in Italy. Consumption of cannabis is not criminalized under Italian law, although consumers can still be fined and have their documents suspended, and consumption for medical purposes is also allowed, although buying, selling, mass cultivating the herb is illegal.
$100 million family feud tonight. Trump versus Trump, with the former president in a new lawsuit accusing his niece, Mary Trump, the New York Times, and 3 of its reporters of an insidious plot to get his tax records. Mary Trump now clapping back, describing her uncle as a loser, acting out of desperation. The lawsuit alleges reporters from the Times convinced Mary Trump to smuggle records out of her attorney's office and that she broke her confidentiality agreement by sharing those documents. The records became the foundation of a Pulitzer Prize-winning series published by the Times in 2018, detailing what the paper called a history of tax schemes and fraud by the former president and his company. The Times defending its reporting, calling the lawsuit an attempt to silence independent news organizations.
South African Airways returns to the skies this Thursday, September 23, after a year of inactivity and almost 18 months without a commercial flight. The airline has not flown any commercial flights since March 2020 and ceased all cargo and repatriation flights in September last year. The carrier will initially offer flights from Johannesburg to Cape Town, Accra, Kinshasa, Harare, Lusaka, and Maputo. Interim CEO Thomas Chokolo, expressing delight, assured passengers that South African Airways will continue to be a safe carrier, adhering to COVID-19 protocols.